Hello everybody, and welcome to my YouTube channel called Living in Hayward, Wisconsin, where we talk about all things real estate related and about living in Hayward. I'm Audrey Miller. I'm the broker owner of Northwest Wisconsin Realty Team, and I invite you to follow along with me today as we talk about something that I have not yet covered in my videos about the Hayward area, and that is vacant land, on water, off water, price points. Vacant land is a big part of what we do up here in terms of sales. So I wanted to cover some of this today. So hopefully you will take a listen and enjoy the information that I have to share regarding vacant land in northwestern Wisconsin. Come on along with me. So the first thing I want to say about vacant land is that not all vacant land is created equal. There are many variables, and if you see a property that is just priced too good to be true, there's probably a reason for it. So some of the variables can include the following. How much of the land is high ground or low ground / swamp? That's a huge one. A nicely wooded piece of land with oaks and maples and pines on it is not going to sell for the same as something that has 50 or 75% lowland. So that's one big factor. Although lowland is good for wildlife, it's kind of unusable land in terms of walking or building or that kind of thing. Some other things that can impact the price point of vacant land and maybe the desirability is proximity to lakes. If it is on water, how big is the lake? Are you close to ATV and snowmobile trails? What about amenities that are nearby or towns that are nearby? Utility proximity. If electric is a long ways away, that may cause the land to be a little bit less expensive because not everybody wants to pay $20,000 to get electricity to their property. Does it border county land? A lot of times for hunting on these bigger parcels, people want to have property that may adjoin public land of some sort to expand their hunting areas. And we do have a lot of county land, a lot of forest crop type land, and a lot of land owned by large logging companies or paper mills that are able to be used by the public. So these are just some of the things that we're going to talk about today in our video about vacant land. Again, I'm Audrey with Northwest Wisconsin Realty Team out of Hayward, Wisconsin. I cover an area about 45 minutes in any direction from Hayward. And if you want to subscribe to my channel, that would be awesome. I'd love to have you follow along. Check out all my other informative videos about Hayward and the real estate market in the Hayward area. And you can like or comment below if there's a subject you'd like me to talk about. If you have an opinion about this particular video, I'd love to hear from you. As always, if you're looking to buy or sell in this area of Northwest Wisconsin, I would love to be your point of contact. I'm happy to help you. And let's continue with this talk about vacant land. So one rule of thumb to keep in mind when you're dealing with purchasing or looking to purchase vacant land, or even if you're looking to sell, the more acres, the less price per acre. So if you have an 80-acre parcel to sell, you're going to get less per acre than if you have a 40-acre parcel or a 20-acre parcel. So the smaller that the land has been subdivided, the higher price per acre, if that makes sense. So you may get a building lot around the Hayward area for $20,000 or $25,000, and it might be just 3/4 of an acre or 1 acre. But if you get up to an 80-acre parcel, you may only be paying $2,000 or $2,300 per acre in the very same area. So you can see the big difference from $2,300 an acre to $20,000 an acre, almost 10 times more, because you're buying large acreage versus smaller. So I will say the large acreage is in very high demand, and we're seeing less and less of it in especially the Hayward and Stone Lake areas. So as these areas have gotten more developed, more people have moved to the area, there's more amenities in the area, the land has continued to get subdivided to where it's getting difficult to find large parcels of land in the areas that are more highly developed. I will also say that part of it is too that people like to hang on to their large parcels of vacant land. So sometimes there's still quite a few around, but to find somebody who wants to sell it is a bigger challenge. One thing I wanted to mention too is that vacant land takes a little bit longer to sell than residential properties in general. I did the statistics. This is in Washburn and Sawyer County for the last 365 days, and I'm recording this in early May of 2024. All of my data is coming from the MLS. So in the last 365 days, there have been 321 parcels of vacant land that have sold just in Sawyer and Washburn County. And then there's going to be a few more in that area that sold outside of our MLS. So there's basically one vacant land property a day selling in just those two counties in Northwest Wisconsin. And I cover parts of other counties, but I just did the data on Sawyer and Washburn since those are the two counties that I do probably 80 to 90% of my work within. The off-water properties actually had less days on market than on water, which was kind of a surprise to me. The average days on market for off-water properties in the last year was 123 days, and those properties sold for 93% of full asking price. The on-water properties actually took 262 days to close, and they also sold for 93% of full asking price. I think maybe one of the reasons for the little bit of a delay in the lakefront property is, number one, it's a higher price in general. But secondly, a lot of the lakefront property that is selling these days is not the most highly desirable. Our lakes have gotten pretty built up. It's getting hard to find nice lakefront properties. So quite a few of them that do come on the market may have less than desirable frontage. Some other item that makes it less desirable, maybe it's on a really small lake. And the waterfront does include riverfront as well. So that's the days on market statistics for you. And then we'll talk about how many of those 321 parcels were waterfront, and we'll delve into price points on all of that as well. So there were 95 waterfront properties that sold in the last year, including riverfront. And the rest of the properties that sold were off water. Sorry, I got to look at my notes a little bit today. Usually I can just talk from memory, but I have a lot of data here in front of me today. So excuse me if I have to look at my notes once in a while. So the average sale price for the riverfront properties, and these are properties that were kind of a normal riverfront size, which is between 1 and 2 acres typically. There were some larger riverfront properties with 10 plus acres that sold in the last year, and those are not really representative of the typical riverfront property. So the riverfront properties are usually to the east of Hayward, over by Ojibwa, Radisson, Winter. They're typically on the Chippewa River specifically. And the riverfront lots sold for an average of $65,000. Now, some of them had a few improvements, like maybe a driveway or a spot for a camper, that type of thing. But mostly this was just undeveloped land. I would say if you take out for any properties that may have had some slight improvements to them, the average riverfront lot would sell for somewhere around $55,000. And then the lakefront properties that sold, first of all, I just want to mention that Tier 1 lakes, there was virtually no sales on those lakes in the last year in terms of vacant land. So there were only 4 properties that sold on Tier 1 lakes. 3 were on Round Lake, 1 was on Grindstone Lake, and the average sale price for those parcels was $516,000. It's getting really, really tough to obtain property on the Tier 1 and Tier 2 lakes, period, even if you have the budget to afford it. It's much more likely you'll be able to find a house that's already finished and purchase that than finding a piece of vacant land and building on that. The rest of those waterfront properties on area lakes that were not the Tier 1 lakes sold for an average of $129,000. They kind of ranged in price from up to maybe $300,000 or $350,000 down to around $50,000. But average sale price for the rest of the lakefront properties was $129,000. And then in terms of off-water lots, I already mentioned, a nice building lot in the Hayward area, around an acre, give or take a little bit, will go for somewhere between $20,000 to $25,000. And if you get a little further away from Hayward, you're going to definitely get more for your money. And there's not as many just building lots that sell in a lot of the other areas, maybe other than Birchwood. A lot of the rest of the areas, you'll end up like in Winter or Trigo, Minong, down towards Spooner. Excellent, all those areas, you'll end up getting a few more acres. It's not as subdivided, so you may end up with like a 5-acre parcel for a building lot versus a 1 or 2 acre parcel. Now, there is larger property in the Hayward area. There's just more of the smaller parcels around Hayward. That price point does not include anything that's on the Berkey Trail. That tends to definitely be more expensive, even for a 1 or 2 acre lot. And those prices are more like in the 50 to 55,000 if you want to have direct Berkey Trail access. And so as these properties get developed further, the distance to Hayward and distance to amenities that I've addressed in some of the other videos when I talk about lakefront and affordability and price points and all of that, the same applies to vacant land. So I'm going to kind of delve into a little bit of the various areas within the area that I cover and specifics on price points for vacant land off water. We're talking about now off water land in those areas, and maybe where you can get the most for your money, or where you can find the biggest chunks of land that are available for hunting and that kind of thing. Big chunks of hunting land are really, really desirable. I mentioned this earlier in the video. So if you're looking to buy or sell, I would say those are going to be a good value. If you have one of those chunks of land, it might be good to get a hold of me to talk about what it might be worth. And if you're looking to buy, I think those big chunks are going to continue to increase in value as they get more difficult to obtain. So this is off water land we're talking about, not anything on water. And I broke it down by area and then the average size of lot that's sold in that area and the average price per acre. So we're going to go from highest to lowest in terms of the actual per acre values in these areas. So the highest valued area came in at $21,600 per acre, and that was the Birchwood area. Birchwood and Serona. I think one of the reasons this came in so high is because there is the Loch Lomond Beach Club area by Red Cedar Lake, and there's lots that sell there that are off water, and they're small lots, so that's the highest price per acre, if you remember, when you have it subdivided into smaller lots. And those lots have potential access to a dock on Red Cedar Lake, and they also have access to the beach club and the amenities there. So I think that's skewing the price per acre a little bit, but Birchwood does have a fairly high price per acre, even when you're talking about non-small lots, you know, bigger acreage. It's near the Blue Hills. A lot of people really like that area. It's a very, very pretty area, very nicely wooded, a lot of good land there. So Birchwood, the average acre there was pretty small in the last year, but the average price per acre was $21,600. The next area after that, as expected, was the Hayward and Stone Lake areas, and the average size of parcel that sold in the Hayward and Stone Lake areas was 8 to 9 acres. So that would include anything that was 20 or 40 acres, anything that was 1 and 2 acres, 3, 5, all of those are included. The average was between 8 and 9 acres, and the price per acre was $20,175. That's for the Hayward and Stone Lake cities and zip codes. The next one, oh, I did want to mention too, that includes properties on the Berkey Trail. And like I mentioned, the Berkey Trail lots tend to have the highest price per acre of off-water properties in our area. If you're not familiar, I think most people know, but the Berkey Trail Berkey is short for the American Birkebeiner, and that takes place every year in February. And it's a cross-country ski trail that goes from Cable down to Hayward, and there's lots of trails connecting between Hayward and Cable. So there's a certain segment of the population that wants to have access to ski directly out their door. So that's why those lots tend to be higher value per acre. It's kind of like the people that want to be on the lakes. They want to have direct access to the lake. Some people want to have direct access to the ski trails. The next area is the Minong, Trigo, Spooner, Shell Lake area. So those are all west of Hayward, kind of along that Highway 53 corridor if you're coming up from the south. So in those areas, the average size property was actually 20 acres. So still bigger chunks in that area, which keeps the price per acre down a little bit at just over $17,000 per acre in those areas. A lot of nice larger parcels selling in those areas, and very desirable hunting land near many area lakes, etc. Springbrook is kind of a category of its own because there was a number of properties that did sell in the Springbrook area in the last year. Springbrook is about 15 to 20 minutes, I guess I'll say southeast of Hayward towards Spooner. It's a town that is halfway between Hayward and Spooner. You can still get pretty good value for your land there. The average size of parcel that sold in Springbrook in the last year was 15 acres. The average price per acre was down to $6,337. The next area, and we're just again going from most expensive to least, was the Winter, Ojibwa, Radisson, Coudray area. Those are all east of Hayward a little ways. And this is an area that I've talked about numerous times because I think it's kind of an up and coming area. And there's definitely still a lot of larger chunks down there. In fact, that area had the biggest average lot size of any of the areas that I cover. They were at over 38 acres average, so that means a lot of 40 and 80 acre parcels were being sold. And the average price per acre for all of those parcels combined was $4,157. And then the last area would be the area down by Exeland. And since I was only doing Sawyer and Washburn County, I did not include Cable. I definitely work in the Cable area, but that's in Bayfield County for the most part. So I didn't include that in my criteria today or in my facts about vacant land, but that's going to fall somewhere below Hayward and Stone Lake, but probably above the Minong and Trigo Spooner area. So the last one was the Exeland area, and the average size of parcel there was 29 acres, and the average price per acre was $3,265. So that was the least expensive, but there was not a parcel smaller than 4.8 acres in that area. So none of that really small building lots to bring the price per acre up in that case. I hope that you found this to be really informative. If you're looking to buy vacant land in the area, if you're looking to sell vacant land that you may have, I would be more than happy to help you with that. It's obviously a big part of what we do up here in the Northwoods. We have a lot of beautiful wooded land. We have a lot of streams, rivers, creeks running through land. A lot of privacy available still in a lot of the areas, especially where the bigger tracts of land are available. So please reach out to me anytime, call or text me, leave a comment below. And I hope you found this helpful and it might give you some insight on where you may want to purchase vacant land in the Hayward area.